Okay. So, do another video relating to the Christchurch terror attack. This time we're talking guns. Which is the other thing that's popped up. Again, I'm going to do this thing in videos in general now. At the outset, I support radical law change here in New Zealand. I was under the impression that we already had the laws that I'm about to suggest and that have been suggested by wiser heads than mine for about the last 15 years. I thought we already had them. We should have, and if we did, what happened in Christchurch would not have happened at all, or at least wouldn't have happened the way it did with the massive loss of life. So there's your point if you don't like listening to me rant. Alright. So on one side of the gun debate, we've got all these people going, why have guns at all? We should ban them outright. Well, you're a silly person and you clearly live in a city. So yeah, I'm not even responding to that. If you don't even have a basic knowledge of guns and what they're used for and stuff, and where they're useful in quite a legal fashion, you probably shouldn't weigh in on debates about them, eh? On the other hand, we've got a lot of people who are practically American style. Don't take our guns from our cold dead hands. Okay, well, you're also an idiot, so you should shush. Because we're talking about a lot of dead people. The death toll is still going up. This is unacceptable. Shouldn't have happened in my country. Not okay. And it didn't need to happen. So first point, for those of you in the gun owners sort of group and stuff, I've got many friends who are. I'm not against you. I don't happen to because I travel a lot, and for me to safely store firearms would be impossible. I've got friends, gun lockers I suppose I could use and stuff, but it's just, I don't hunt or do target shooting or things often enough to own one. And at some point in the future I may do. I'm not against guns on any level at all. In fact, I know a fair bit about them because I find them interesting. I'm particularly interested personally in sniper rifles, but like, yeah. Just because I appreciate the engineering, and long-range target shooting is a really cool pile of applied mathematics. Anyway, and hunting's also useful, by the way. Costs a lot of money to buy venison in the supermarket. If you can go hunt for the stuff, well, it's the price of a bullet and a bit of time with a knife and some gore. Speaking of which, I am going to talk about killing here, so those of you who are vegetarian or whatever, or a bit softy and stuff like that, you probably don't want to watch the rest of this. Right, so if we accept the two extreme ends of the argument and ignore them because they're yelling and screaming and being silly, and we get into some practical middle-of-the-road debate on this, in the end, there's not really any need for civilians, at least on a Category A license, to own MSSAs, which is military-style semi-automatics, the AR-15, the SKS, and things of that order. Semi-automatic rifles for hunting do have a number of uses, particularly when it comes to goat culling, tar culling and things up in the bush. But here's the interesting thing with that. Generally, if you're doing that, you're going to be a farmer who owns a large block of land, or you're going to be working for DOC, at which point getting the necessary add-ons or endorsements on your license so that you can get a larger capacity magazine or an AR platform to do this work shouldn't be a problem, even under new laws. Because you've got a good, obvious, stated reason to own this weapon. The other things that we use ARs for is collections, because they're kind of cool, multi-gun competitions, and a few other hobby uses and things like that, and just owning a military-style rifle is pretty cool kind of thing. So if we ban that, and that's what I am for, on a Category A license, those people who are going to lose out, I'm going to be like, okay, well, the government's going to buy your gun back, so you're going to get a bunch of money out of this, and then you can go spend that on a really cool bolt-action rifle or something else that you want or whatever. Is it really that much of a problem to you, that loss of sporting convenience, to, in the face of maybe just lowering the percentage chances of this kind of thing happening again by 1 or 2%? Like, to me, that's just dumb numbers. Like, I want to be able to have fun with my hobby, yeah, but some other guy took the same gear you use and wasted 50 people, and the death toll will probably go up. Like, come on, show some empathy, like, is it that hard? So, yeah, I think that the big thing is, I may have mentioned it already, but a number of people are saying, oh, well, we need to wait till everyone's calmed down to have a logical, rational debate about law change in New Zealand. It's already been had multiple times over the last 15 years, and every time the suggestions from the select committees and stuff went to Parliament, the gun lobby kicked up such a stink about it that the politicians dropped nuts and didn't change the law. police have been begging them to for years, because it is too easy to take a Category A legal AR-15 and load a 30-round or larger magazine in it, which you can also get without a license at all, online or from a gun shop. And now you've made yourself a military-style weapon that allows you to go into a room, shoot an awful lot of people real quick. One of the other more disingenuous arguments is, oh, well, if the guy couldn't have done that, he would have used a bomb or a car like they do overseas. Yeah, these are less effective. The reason he used an AR platform is because they're very bloody effective at the work. So, yeah, no, that's a dumb argument. The guy clearly had the knowledge to build bombs. He did put some IEDs on his cars and stuff like that, but he didn't go running into a mosque and chuck bombs into it. He went in with an AR for political reasons, and also because it's physically better at doing the job he was trying to do, which is disgusting, but that's the element of it. So again, on a Category A license at least, why? What's the point of making this kind of stuff available? Because you can get a Category A license and then get an endorsement to allow you to get a higher capacity weapon or one that shoots faster or whatever for particular tasks, and that will not be a major problem. It'll be a minor inconvenience and a bit more paperwork, maybe some more cost. But other than that, I mean, the weapons already cost $3 to $5 each. If you can afford that, I'm pretty sure you can afford an extra $100 with the cops and a bit of a sit down and a test and a check that you actually need to own a freaking military style weapon. Like, this shit isn't rocket science, team. As for self-loading rifles and like the hunting style semi-automatic, I'm not sure we do want to completely ban centerfire semi-automatics. They are very useful for hunting, again, for culling operations and things like that. They would not have been as effective. The guy didn't use them for this particular terrorist act. He used AR platforms and shotguns and things, and in the end he was able to very easily uprate the magazine capacity of those weapons so as to use them in a military style fashion. And that's the thing we want to get around and stop happening. A normal hunting semi-automatic tends to come with its own pattern magazines for that particular weapon or that brand or whatever. You can't just go get an M16 or AR-15 style magazine from the States or from a gun shop and just load it into the weapon easily. ARs, on the other hand, especially because of the American economy and whatnot, have a huge amount of plug-and-play attachments that you can stick into them that can get you up to, actually, I'm told in one case, 100-round magazines for them. So that's the problem with an AR. I think it's fair to at least get a better license, like a Category C, or an endorsement on your Category A with some additional testing and background checking and shit before you get this weapon. Because even if you are going to use it for a cool, like a useful purpose like culling, I mean, personally, I'm like, if you're already culling using an AR and you've got a 30-round magazine in it, then I hope that you're being lawful and you've already gotten the endorsement. I think at this point you'd need a Cat C license or something like that to do it. I hope you've already got the endorsement, at which point this doesn't affect you, so you can stop complaining. Otherwise, AR platform, you're still only allowed to put 7 rounds into it in a small magazine, and you've got to reload a few times to get 30 rounds out of that system. So again, law change wouldn't affect you. You just have to switch from an AR platform to a kick-ass semi-automatic of another sort. Like, you know, like, I'm just not seeing good arguments from the people who are saying we don't need to change the law at all or don't take our guns or whatever that are good in the face of 50 dead people. I'm really not seeing that. I am, unfortunately, on the other side of things, seeing a lot of very misinformed people who are saying we should ban all guns. What on earth? One of my favourite comments so far was, I've never needed to use a gun. I don't understand why anyone would need to do that. Well, that's just a ridiculous, selfish argument. And you obviously grew up in the city. Shush. Or another person going, oh, well, if you want to eat meat, just go and get it from the supermarket. Well, some of us prefer to do our own killing and actually be in contact with the process. It's also a hell of a lot cheaper and all that kind of thing. So again, shush, you don't know what you're talking about. Clearly you grew up in a city. You don't understand the people who do own these weapons and use them and stuff. Usually rural community people. You know, and then they have good hunting and sporting reasons to own these things. I'm not completely without an understanding of why they're in New Zealand. Let's be honest. You see them enough in movies, you use them in Call of Duty or whatever. Having a cool AR weapon, it's just plain cool. Although I wonder how many people think they're cool now when they see what it's done to a bunch of civilians. Like, that cool, really? So yeah, these are my thoughts. Again, to recap, I support a massive restriction and changing of the law on MSSAs and the parts that go into making them happen and putting them together. I think we definitely need at the absolute least, to get AR-15s off the Category A register and weapons like them off the Category A register. Possibly just semi-automatics in general, at least the centre-fire rifle cartridge ones. And I think it's high time we got into a gun registry here in New Zealand. I know it's going to be hard. I know it's going to cost a lot of money, but money in the face of lots of dead people, nah. Like that's a no-brainer. I think registering all guns would be not a bad plan at all. Just have an amnesty. I mean, I know that's going to cost money and stuff, but have an amnesty, and anything after that point, if you've got unregistered firearms, you get done for it. Same as you get done for unlicensed ownership of firearms or whatever. I think that's absolutely fair. I think for those of you who do own MSSA platforms like ARs and things like that, if the government is going to say just take them off you, then they should buy them back like they did in Australia, and that way you'll have lots of money left to go buy other platforms or pay for a new category license thing or whatever else. So there are ways around this where those of you who need the things genuinely for dock work and stuff can do it. And it's not a big threat to your freedoms and your sport and all the rest of it that you think it is. And I think showing a bit more compassion would politically help your cause a great deal in New Zealand. I'm very impressed to see the number of people who do own these weapons already who are just handing them in voluntarily. That's an incredible thing to do, because for those of you who don't know, these weapons cost for an old school SLR, like just a semi-automatic hunting rifle, maybe not so much, but for an AR platform, you're looking at $3,000 to $5,000. So handing that thing in just gratis, that is an incredibly big gesture, actually. That's a lot of cash to just hand off because you're that gutted about what's happened, and I think that's a very genuine and cool thing that's being done by a number of people. But yeah, so my basic point, support law reform team. Even if it only makes this sort of event 1 or 2% chances of less likely to occur, that's enough to make it a good thing to do. Because in really, the two main arguments for keeping these weapons on the Category A register are fun and convenience. And those aren't good reasons in the face of this many dead civilians. They're just not.